Odin crouched behind a crumbling wall, her scaled skin glistening in the dim light of Sheliaka Prime's twin moons. She hated Earth and its carnivorous inhabitants, but she never expected to find herself at the mercy of one. The year was 2154, and Sheliaka Prime had become a battleground. Earth's military base loomed in the distance, a stark reminder of the human invasion that had plagued Odin's homeworld for years. As a young female Sheliak soldier, Odin led a squad tasked with sabotaging the Earth base. Their mission, strike a blow against the flesh-eating monsters who threatened their way of life. Odin signaled to her team, and they moved silently through the ruins of what was once a thriving Sheliak city. The air was thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the metallic tang of spent ammunition. Every step brought them closer to their target, and Odin's heart raced with anticipation. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire erupted from their flank. Human soldiers had ambushed them. Odin's team scattered, seeking cover amidst the debris. She fired back, her weapon spitting deadly energy bolts at the advancing humans. But they were outnumbered and outgunned. A searing pain tore through Odin's side as a human bullet found its mark. She stumbled, falling behind a pile of rubble. Through blurring vision, she watched her comrades retreat, leaving her behind. The sounds of battle faded as darkness closed in. Hours later, Odin awoke to the gentle touch of hands on her wound. Her eyes snapped open, focusing on the face of a human male. Panic surged through her as she recognized the uniform of an Earth medic. This was Adam Reyes, though Odin didn't know his name yet. She lashed out weakly, expecting him to retaliate, to finish what his fellow soldiers had started. But Adam didn't attack. Instead, he spoke softly, his words incomprehensible to Odin's translator-deprived ears. She watched in confusion as he applied strange devices and substances to her injury. The pain began to subside, and Odin's mind raced. Why would this human help her? Weren't they bloodthirsty carnivores who feasted on alien flesh? Adam worked quickly, glancing over his shoulder every few moments. He seemed nervous, as if what he was doing was forbidden. Once he had stabilized Odin's condition, he carefully lifted her onto a hovering stretcher. Odin was too weak to resist as Adam covered her with a camouflage tarp and began to move. They traveled through the night, avoiding patrols and checkpoints. Odin drifted in and out of consciousness, her mind a whirl of pain and confusion. When she finally came to, she found herself in a sterile room that reeked of human medicine. Adam stood nearby, monitoring her vital signs on a holographic display. Odin's instincts kicked in. Despite her weakened state, she lunged at Adam, her clawed hands seeking his throat. But her movements were slow and uncoordinated. Adam easily restrained her, speaking in that same calm tone. This time, a translation device on his wrist converted his words. "I'm not going to hurt you," Adam said. "I saved your life. You're safe here." Odin snarled. "Liar! You're going to eat me like all humans do." Adam's eyes widened in surprise. "Eat you? Is that what you think we do?" As Odin's strength faded, she slumped back onto the medical bed. Adam explained how he had found her during a routine patrol and made the decision to save her, despite orders to eliminate any Sheliak combatants. He had smuggled her into a secure medical bay within the human base, risking his own life in the process. Odin's world tilted on its axis. Everything she had been taught about humans suddenly seemed suspect. As she recovered over the following days, Adam visited frequently, bringing food and engaging in cautious conversation. Odin learned that Adam's superior, Colonel Marcus Steele, was growing suspicious of his frequent visits to the restricted area. With each interaction, Odin's preconceptions about humans began to crumble. She found herself questioning not only her views on humans, but also the entire basis for the war. Adam, too, was undergoing a transformation. Through their conversations, he discovered that the Sheliak government had been lying to its people about the nature of the conflict. The truth hit Adam like a plasma bolt. The war had started when Sheliak forces, driven by their leaders' expansionist goals, attacked human colonies without provocation. This revelation shook Adam's faith in Earth's military presence on Sheliaka Prime. As days turned to weeks, a tentative bond formed between Odin and Adam, but their fragile connection faced a looming threat. Colonel Steele had launched an investigation into Adam's suspicious behavior, putting both of them at risk of discovery. The consequences of their unlikely alliance could reignite the conflict between humans and Sheliak, with Odin and Adam caught in the crossfire. Adam's heart raced as he input the final coordinates into the transport vehicle's navigation system. He glanced at Odin, her scaled skin now concealed beneath layers of synthetic material designed to mimic human flesh. The disguise was crude but effective, transforming the Sheliak soldier into a passable human female. "Remember," Adam whispered, "keep your head down and stay close to me. If anyone asks, you're Private Sarah Chen, a new transfer." Odin nodded, her alien eyes hidden behind dark contact lenses. "I understand. But Adam, what if we're caught?" Before he could respond, the transport's engines roared to life. Adam guided Odin to a secluded corner of the vehicle, away from the prying eyes of the other soldiers. As they settled in, the base's massive gates groaned open, revealing the desolate landscape of Sheliaka Prime. The convoy rumbled forward, kicking up clouds of reddish dust. Adam's fingers drummed nervously on his knee as he scanned the horizon. Everything seemed to be going according to plan until a high-pitched whine cut through the air. "Incoming!" someone shouted. The world exploded into chaos. Energy bolts rained down on the convoy, transforming the quiet supply run into a battlefield. The transport swerved violently, throwing Adam and Odin to the floor. "Sheliak attack force!" the driver yelled. "We need to find cover!" Through the chaos, Adam spotted an outcropping of jagged rocks. "There," he pointed, "that old mining facility. We can take shelter there." The vehicle screeched to a halt near the facility's entrance. Soldiers poured out, returning fire against the unseen Sheliak attackers. In the confusion, Adam grabbed Odin's arm and pulled her towards a half-hidden side entrance. "We need to split off from the main group," he hissed. "It's our best chance to escape unnoticed." They slipped into the dark maw of the abandoned mine, the sounds of battle fading behind them. The air grew thick with dust and the musty scent of long disused machinery. Adam activated his wrist-mounted light, revealing a maze of tunnels stretching into the darkness. "Which way?" Odin asked, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. Adam consulted a holographic map projected from his wrist device. "This way, there should be an emergency exit on the far side of the facility." They moved cautiously through the winding passages, stepping over fallen support beams and skirting around pits of unknown depth. The eerie silence was broken only by the crunch of gravel under their boots and the occasional distant rumble of the battle outside. As they rounded a corner, Adam's foot caught on a loose cable. He stumbled, his hand brushing against a control panel. With a groan of protesting metal, a hidden door slid open, revealing a chamber bathed in soft blue light. "By the first egg!" Odin gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. The room was filled with artifacts, unlike anything Adam had ever seen. Delicate crystal structures pulsed with inner light, while holographic displays flickered to life, showing images of Sheliaks and humans working side by side. "This can't be," Odin whispered, approaching one of the displays. "These artifacts, they're from before the war, but they show our people cooperating, not fighting." Adam examined a nearby data crystal, its surface etched with intricate patterns. "These look like historical records. Odin, do you realize what this means? The story your people have been told about the war's origins, it might all be a lie." Odin's scaled hands trembled as she reached for another artifact. "But why? Why would our leaders deceive us like this?" Before Adam could respond, the sharp crack of energy weapons echoed through the tunnels. A voice, unmistakably Sheliak, barked orders in the distance. "We need to move," Adam urged, grabbing as many of the small artifacts as he could carry. "We have to get this information out." They had barely made it out of the chamber when a blast of energy scorched the wall beside them. 3 Sheliak soldiers rounded the corner, weapons raised. "Traitor!" one of them snarled at Odin. "You dare to aid the flesh-eaters?" Adam reacted instinctively, shoving Odin behind a pile of debris and returning fire with his sidearm. The narrow tunnel erupted into a deadly light show of energy bolts and ricocheting particles. In the chaos of the firefight, Adam felt a searing pain in his shoulder. He stumbled, his vision blurring. Through the haze, he saw Odin emerge from cover, her disguise in tatters. She moved with fluid grace, disarming one Sheliak soldier and using his weapon to incapacitate the others. As the last attacker fell, Odin rushed to Adam's side. "You're hurt," she said, her voice tight with concern. Adam tried to stand, but his legs buckled beneath him. "I'll be fine. We need to keep moving." Odin's expression hardened with tenacity. In one swift motion, she hoisted Adam onto her back, supporting his weight with her superior Sheliak strength. "Then we move together," she declared. They pressed on through the twisting tunnels, Odin carrying Adam and navigating with the help of his wrist device. As they paused to rest in a small alcove, Adam's communicator crackled to life. "This is Colonel Steele to all units. We are initiating a full assault on the mining facility. All personnel are ordered to evacuate immediately. Repeat, full assault incoming." Adam's blood ran cold. "They don't know we're in here. We have to stop them, or they'll kill everyone, human and Sheliak alike." Odin nodded grimly. "But how? We're trapped, and you're injured." Adam's mind raced. Then he remembered a name, a potential ally in this impossible situation. "Dr. Elena Kovacs," he said, fingers flying over his communicator. "She's a xenobiologist who's been advocating for peace. If we can reach her, maybe we can get this information out and stop the attack." As Adam made the call, Odin kept watch, her ears straining for any sign of approaching danger. The communicator hummed softly, each unanswered tone increasing their anxiety. Finally, a voice answered. "This is Dr. Kovacs. Who is this and how did you get this secure channel?" "Doctor, this is Medic Adam Reyes. I don't have time to explain everything, but I'm trapped in the old mining facility with critical information that could end the war. Can you help us?" There was a pause. Then Dr. Kovacs spoke again, her voice tense but determined. "I have a team in the area. We can extract you, but you'll need to reach the facility's eastern exit. Can you make it there?" Adam looked at Odin, seeing his own mix of fear and hope reflected in her alien eyes. "We'll make it," he said. "But we need to hurry. Colonel Steele is planning a full-scale assault on this position." "Understood," Dr. Kovacs replied. "We'll do what we can to delay the attack. Good luck and Godspeed." As the communication ended, Adam and Odin shared a moment of silent understanding. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but the promise of peace, however fragile, drove them forward. "Let's go," Odin said, helping Adam to his feet. "We have a war to stop." Together, they set off into the depths of the facility, racing against time in the approaching storm of violence. The fate of two species now rested on their shoulders, and failure was not an option. Adam and Odin pressed deeper into the mining facility, their breaths echoing in the dim tunnels. The distant rumble of explosions sent tremors through the rock, causing dust to rain down on them. As they rounded a corner, Adam stumbled, his injured shoulder throbbing. "Wait!" Odin hissed, her keen senses alert. "I hear something." They froze, listening intently. The sound of hushed voices and shuffling feet reached them. Adam raised his weapon, but Odin placed a hand on his arm, shaking her head. "Those aren't Sheliak," she whispered. Cautiously, they approached the source of the noise. In a small cavern, they found a group of disheveled humans huddled around a makeshift camp. The humans sprang to their feet, brandishing improvised weapons. "Hold it right there," a gruff voice called out. A burly man with a salt and pepper beard stepped forward, wielding a mining laser. His eyes narrowed as he took in Adam's uniform and Odin's alien features. "Who the hell are you two?" Adam lowered his weapon slowly. "I'm Medic Adam Reyes. This is Private Sarah Chen." He gestured to Odin, hoping her disguise would hold up under scrutiny. "We're trying to get out of here. Who are you?" The man studied them for a long moment before lowering his laser. "Jack Hudson, foreman of this god-forsaken hole. We've been trapped here since the Sheliak hit us." He jerked his thumb towards the others. "My mining crew." Odin stepped forward, her voice carefully modulated. "You know a way out?" Jack snorted. "Sure, if you want to run straight into a Sheliak patrol. But I'm guessing that's not what you two are after, is it?" Adam and Odin exchanged glances. "We need to reach the eastern exit," Adam said. "It's vital we get there." Jack raised an eyebrow. Eastern exit? That's deep in Sheliak territory now. You'd have to be crazy or... Or what? Odin asked, tension evident in her voice. Or you've got something real important to do, Jack finished, his eyes calculating. He was silent for a moment, then nodded to himself. All right, we'll help you. On one condition, you get us out of here too. Adam nodded. Deal. As they moved through the tunnels, Jack's knowledge proved invaluable. He guided them through hidden passages and around unstable areas. Adam found himself impressed by the miners' resilience and resourcefulness. Their progress was halted when they reached a junction. Jack held up a hand, signaling for silence. In the distance, they could hear the distinct cadence of Sheliak voices. Patrol? Adam whispered. Jack shook his head. Worse. Sounds like a command post. We need to find another way around. Odin's eyes gleamed with a sudden intensity. No, she said. This is an opportunity. Adam looked at her, understanding dawning. You're right. If we can infiltrate that post, we might find crucial information. Jack stared at them incredulously. You want to waltz into a Sheliak command center? That's suicide. Not if we do it right, Adam replied. He turned to Odin. I have an idea, but it's risky. Odin nodded. I trust you. Working quickly, they formulated a plan. Using materials from the miner's gear and Odin's knowledge of Sheliak protocols, they crafted a makeshift Sheliak uniform for Adam. Odin would pose as his prisoner, while Jack and his crew created a distraction. Heart pounding, Adam approached the command post with Odin in tow. He barked out orders in broken Sheliak, praying his pronunciation was passable. To his amazement, the guard stepped aside, allowing them entry. Inside, they moved swiftly. While Odin kept watch, Adam accessed a computer terminal. His eyes widened as he scrolled through the data. By God, he muttered, they're planning a massive offensive. If this goes through, the human forces will be decimated. But that wasn't all. As he dug deeper, Adam uncovered files that made his blood run cold. There, in black and white, was evidence of human officials, including Colonel Steele, profiting from the prolonged conflict. We need to get this out, Adam said, his voice tight with anger and persistence. Suddenly, alarms blared. Their ruse had been discovered. Adam grabbed what data he could and they ran, narrowly escaping the command post amidst a hail of energy bolts. They rendezvoused with Jack and his crew, breathless and battered, but alive. As they raced through the tunnels, a Sheliak patrol cut off their escape route. Odin stepped forward, her posture changing subtly. She barked out a series of commands in fluid Sheliak. The patrol hesitated, clearly confused by her authoritative tone and human appearance. In that moment of uncertainty, Adam and the miners struck. The ensuing firefight was brief but intense. When the dust settled, the patrol lay unconscious, and their path was clear. Their victory was short-lived. As they neared the eastern exit, they found their way blocked by a massive cave-in. Jack examined the debris, his expression grim. We can clear it, he said, but it'll take time. Time we might not have. As if to emphasize his point, a distant explosion shook the facility. Colonel Steele's assault had begun. Adam made a quick decision. Jack, take your people and head for the surface. There's a service shaft 2 levels up that should be clear. Odin and I will continue to the extraction point. Jack hesitated, then nodded. Good luck, you two. And whatever you're fighting for, make it count. As the miners departed, Adam and Odin pressed on. The facility groaned around them, the bombardment intensifying. They had nearly reached their goal when they heard a weak cry. In a small alcove, they found a Sheliak soldier, badly wounded and trapped beneath fallen debris. Adam's medical instincts took over. He moved to help, but Odin grabbed his arm. Adam, we can't, she said, her voice strained. We don't have time. Adam looked at her, then at the injured Sheliak. We have to try, he said softly. Together they freed the soldier, and Adam treated his wounds. As they worked, Odin's expression softened, her initial reluctance giving way to compassion. With the soldier stable, they resumed their journey. They could hear the sounds of battle growing closer as they approached the extraction point. Dr. Kovach's team was near, but so were the Sheliak forces. Adam and Odin shared a look, words unnecessary. They had come too far to fail now. With renewed drive, they prepared to make their final push through the Sheliak lines, towards the promise of salvation and the hope of ending this war once and for all. Adam and Odin burst through the final set of blast doors, their lungs burning as they gasped for air. The extraction point lay just ahead, a small clearing illuminated by the soft glow of emergency lights, but their relief was short-lived. "Freeze!" a gruff voice commanded. Colonel Steele stepped out from behind a pillar, flanked by a squad of heavily armed soldiers, their weapons trained on Adam and Odin, fingers hovering over triggers. Adam's mind raced. He'd come too far to fail now. In a split second, his medical training kicked in, eyes darting from soldier to soldier, identifying vulnerable points. "Stand down, Reyes," Steele growled. "You're outnumbered and outgunned." Adam's muscles tensed, ready to spring into action. "With all due respect, sir, I don't think I will." He moved like lightning, a swift jab to the nearest soldier's solar plexus, followed by a precise strike to the brachial plexus of another. Bodies crumpled as Adam danced between them, his movements fluid and purposeful. Each blow targeted pressure points and nerve clusters, incapacitating without causing lasting harm. Steele's eyes widened in disbelief. But Adam was already on him, a quick series of strikes leaving the colonel stunned and immobilized. Across the clearing, Odin faced her own demons. A group of Sheliak soldiers emerged from the shadows, led by a tall, imposing figure she knew all too well. "Commander Zax," Odin said, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her chest. Zax's face was a mask of cold fury. "Traitor," he spat, "you disgrace your entire species by siding with these flesh bags." Odin stood her ground. "You don't understand, Zax. The war, everything we've been fighting for, it's based on lies." She took a step forward, her voice urgent. "The artifacts we found, they prove that humans and Sheliak once coexisted peacefully. This conflict was engineered by those who profit from our suffering." Zax's eyes narrowed. "Pathetic human propaganda. I expected better from you, Odin." He raised his weapon. "Take her." The Sheliak squad advanced, but Odin was ready. She used her intimate knowledge of Sheliak combat techniques to her advantage, evading their attacks with graceful efficiency. Just as the situation seemed to be spiraling out of control, a series of bright flashes filled the air. Non-lethal stun rounds rained down on both human and Sheliak forces, momentarily disorienting them. Dr. Elena Kovacs emerged from the chaos, her green eyes blazing with grit. "This way!" she shouted to Adam and Odin. "We don't have much time." As they ran towards the waiting transport, Adam spotted a data pad lying next to the unconscious form of Colonel Steele. He snatched it up, knowing instinctively that it could contain vital information. They piled into the transport, the engines roaring to life as Dr. Kovacs' team laid down covering fire. The vehicle lurched forward, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy bolts from the recovering soldiers. "Hold on!" Dr. Kovacs yelled as she maneuvered the transport through a series of tight turns, the pursuing forces hot on their heels. Adam clutched the data pad, his fingers flying over its surface. "My God," he breathed. "This has everything. Steele's communications, financial transactions, it's all here. Proof of his involvement in prolonging the war." Odin leaned over, her eyes widening as she scanned the information. This could change everything. Their moment of triumph was short-lived. A massive explosion rocked the transport, sending it careening off course. Smoke filled the cabin as Dr. Kovacs fought to maintain control. "We're hit," she shouted. "The engine's failing. We need to abandon the vehicle." They bailed out, the transport's wreckage providing momentary cover as they assessed their situation. The sound of approaching vehicles echoed in the distance. "There," Odin pointed to a dark opening in the nearby cliffside. "The caverns of echoes. We can lose them in there." They sprinted for the cave entrance, ducking inside just as searchlights swept over the area. The pursuit faded behind them as they ventured deeper into the caverns, surrounded by darkness. As their eyes adjusted, they found themselves in a world of ethereal beauty. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the walls, casting a soft, otherworldly glow. Strange, translucent creatures skittered across the cave floor. Adam's scientific curiosity was piqued despite their dire situation. He carefully collected samples, his mind already racing with potential medical applications. Their path led them to the shore of a vast underground lake, its black surface like polished obsidian. Ancient shellac boats, their hulls etched with intricate designs, lay half-buried in the sand. "We'll have to use these to cross," Dr. Kovacs said, already moving to unearth one of the vessels. As they worked to prepare the boat, a deep rumbling sound echoed across the water. Ripples spread across the surface, emanating from a point far out in the lake. Odin's face paled. "We're not alone down here," she whispered. The tension was palpable as they pushed off from shore, the ancient boat gliding silently across the dark waters. Every splash, every creak of the hull seemed magnified in the cavernous space. Adam found himself shoulder to shoulder with Odin, their hands almost touching as they gripped the sides of the boat. In the soft bioluminescent light, he could see the purpose in her alien features, mixed with something else, a vulnerability he'd never noticed before. As they neared the center of the lake, the water around them began to churn. A massive shape rose from the depths, tentacles as thick as tree trunks breaking the surface. "Brace yourselves!" Dr. Kovacs shouted, her voice echoing off the cavern walls. The creature's enormous bulk loomed over them, blocking out what little light there was. Adam's heart raced as he prepared to face this new threat, knowing that their mission, and the fate of two species, hung in the balance. The creature's massive form loomed over their small boat, its tentacles poised to strike. Adam's mind raced, searching for a solution. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught his eye. A sleek, dark vessel emerged from the shadows, gliding silently across the water. "Hold your position," a voice called out. A figure stood at the bow of the approaching craft, hands raised in a gesture of peace. As the newcomers drew closer, Adam could make out their features. His eyes widened in surprise. The speaker was clearly shellac, but unlike any he'd seen before. Her exoskeleton gleamed with an iridescent sheen, and her movements were fluid, almost graceful. "I am Lyra," she announced. "General Vox sent us to assist you." Dr. Kovacs tensed, her hand moving to her weapon. "And why should we trust you?" Lyra's compound eyes flickered. "Because, like you, we seek to end this senseless war. General Vox believes in peace, and he knows you have information that could make that possible." Adam and Odin exchanged glances. The tension in the air was palpable, broken only by the ominous churning of the water around them. "We don't have time for this," Adam said, eyeing the looming creature. "If you can help us, now's the time to prove it." Lyra nodded, gesturing to her team. They sprang into action, maneuvering their vessel between the humans and the aquatic predator. From hidden compartments, they produced strange cylindrical devices. "Sonic disruptors," Lyra explained. "They should drive the creature away without harming it." The devices activated with a high-pitched whine that set Adam's teeth on edge. The effect on the tentacled monster was immediate. It recoiled, sinking back beneath the inky surface with a mournful cry. With the immediate threat neutralized, the two groups converged. Lyra's team helped transfer Adam, Odin, and Dr. Kovacs into their more stable craft. "The lake is treacherous," Lyra warned as they set off. "Ancient defenses lie dormant beneath the surface. One wrong move could spell disaster." As if to emphasize her point, a distant explosion sent ripples across the water. Adam watched in horror as one of the abandoned shellac boats was consumed by a vortex of energy. "How do we avoid them?" Dr. Kovacs asked, her voice tight with concern. Lyra produced a holographic map, its soft blue glow illuminating their faces. "These are the safe passages, known only to a select few. We'll guide you through." Their journey across the lake was tense, each moment fraught with potential danger. Adam found himself shoulder to shoulder with Odin, their proximity both comforting and electrifying. He couldn't help but notice how her alien features seemed softer in the bioluminescent light, her eyes reflecting the ethereal glow of the cavern. As they neared the far shore, a sudden tremor rocked the boat. Warning lights flashed on Lyra's console. "We've triggered something," she hissed. "Brace yourselves!" The water around them began to churn, a whirlpool forming with frightening speed. Adam's mind raced, scanning their surroundings for anything that might help. His eyes fell on the sample container where he'd stored the bioluminescent fungi. "The concussive force," he muttered, an idea forming. "Odin, help me with this." Together, they quickly fashioned a makeshift depth charge, using the sample container and some of their remaining equipment. As the vortex grew stronger, threatening to drag them under, Adam activated the device. "Now!" he shouted, hurling it into the center of the whirlpool. The explosion that followed was more brilliant than violent. A burst of bioluminescent spores filled the air, disrupting the energy field that powered the ancient trap. The whirlpool dissipated, leaving them bobbing in calm waters once more. Lyra's compound eyes widened in what Adam assumed was the Sheliak equivalent of impressed surprise. "Quick thinking," she said. "Perhaps there's hope for our species yet." They reached the shore without further incident, but their relief was short-lived. The cavern system stretched before them, a labyrinth of twisting passages and yawning chasms. "The traps here are even more deadly," Lyra warned. "We'll need to proceed with extreme caution." As they ventured deeper into the caves, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Shadows seemed to move at the edge of his vision, and strange echoes reverberated through the tunnels. Their progress was slow, each step carefully considered. Odin's knowledge of Sheliak history proved invaluable, her insights helping them avoid triggering lethal mechanisms hidden in the rock. "These defenses," she explained, running her hand along an intricately carved wall, "they're not just traps, they're a test. Our ancestors believed that only those worthy of our knowledge and power should be able to pass." Adam watched her work, marveling at the depth of her understanding. It struck him how far they'd come, from bitter enemies to trusted allies. The thought stirred something within him, a warmth he couldn't quite name. As they navigated a particularly treacherous section, Adam noticed Dr. Kovacs favoring her left leg. He knelt to examine it, finding a nasty gash he hadn't noticed earlier. "Why didn't you say something?" he chided gently, reaching for his medical kit. To his surprise, the bioluminescent fungi he'd collected earlier had continued to grow in the sample container. On a hunch, he applied some of the glowing substance to Dr. Kovacs' wound. The effect was immediate and remarkable. The gash began to close before their eyes, the pain visibly easing from the doctor's face. "Extraordinary," Dr. Kovacs breathed, flexing her newly healed leg. The medical applications of this could be revolutionary. Their amazement was cut short by a sudden tremor that shook the cavern. Dust and small rocks rained down from above. "That wasn't natural," Lyra said, her antennae twitching. "Something's happening deeper in the system." They pressed on, the tremors growing more frequent. As they rounded a bend, they found themselves face to face with a sight that took their breath away. A vast chamber opened up before them, filled with sleek, advanced technology that contrasted sharply with the ancient cave walls. "A hidden research facility," Odin whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. They moved cautiously into the space, taking in the banks of computers and strange pulsing energy conduits. Adam approached one of the terminals, his fingers flying over the unfamiliar interface. "This can't be right," he muttered, his face growing pale as he read the information scrolling across the screen. "According to this, both human and Sheliak leadership have been deliberately prolonging the war. They're exploiting a rare mineral found only on Sheliaka Prime." Odin leaned in, her expression hardening as she confirmed Adam's findings. "This mineral, it's essential for advanced technology. The war was never about territory or ideology. It was about control of this resource." The implications of their discovery hung heavy in the air. Years of bloodshed, countless lives lost, all for the greed of a select few. Adam felt a cold anger settling in his chest, a drive to expose the truth. "We need to get this data out," Dr. Kovacs said, already working to download the files. "This could be the key to ending the war." As if in response to her words, a shrill alarm began to sound throughout the facility. Red warning lights bathed the chamber in an eerie glow. "We've triggered a security protocol," Lyra shouted over the noise. "We need to move now." They could hear the sounds of approaching forces echoing through the tunnels. Time was running out. "We'll split up," Adam said, his mind racing to form a plan. Dr. Kovacs, take your team and get that data to safety. Odin, Lyra, and I will stay behind to hold them off. Dr. Kovacs hesitated, clearly reluctant to leave them behind, but she knew the importance of their mission. With a nod, she and her team disappeared into one of the side tunnels, the precious data in hand. Adam turned to Odin and Lyra, his expression grim but determined. Let's give them something to remember us by. As the enemy forces burst into the chamber, Adam, Odin, and Lyra sprang into action. Their diverse skills complemented each other perfectly. Adam's quick thinking, Odin's knowledge of Sheliak tactics, and Lyra's advanced weaponry. They fought their way through the facility, using the complex layout to their advantage. Adam found himself working in perfect sync with Odin, anticipating her movements as if they'd fought side by side for years. But their luck couldn't hold forever. As they neared what they hoped was an exit, a stray energy bolt caught Adam in the shoulder. He stumbled, pain lancing through his body. "Adam!" Odin cried out, her voice filled with a concern that went beyond mere alliance. She was at his side in an instant, supporting his weight as Lyra provided covering fire. The Sheliak soldier's face was a mask of grit as she said, "There's an uncharted section of the caverns ahead. It's our best chance for escape." Together they retreated deeper into the unknown depths of Sheliaka Prime, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. As they ventured into the darkness, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something momentous, a discovery that could change the course of the war and perhaps the future of both their species. Species hangs in the balance. As they ventured deeper into the unknown caverns, the pain in Adam's shoulder intensified. Odin's grip on him tightened, her concern evident in the set of her mandibles. "We need to treat that wound," she said, her voice low and urgent. Lyra scanned the area with her advanced sensors. "There's a small chamber ahead. We can rest there briefly." They ducked into the cramped space, the bioluminescent fungi casting an eerie glow on the rough-hewn walls. Adam winced as Odin helped him sit. "Let me see," she said, her fingers surprisingly gentle as she examined the injury. Adam couldn't help but notice the way her compound eyes reflected the soft light, creating a kaleidoscope of colors. He pushed the thought aside, focusing on their dire situation. "We can't stay here long," he said through gritted teeth. "We need a plan." Lyra nodded, her antenna twitching. "I have an idea, but it's risky. There's a joint command center not far from here. If we can infiltrate it, we might be able to broadcast the truth to both our peoples." Adam and Odin exchanged glances. It was a bold plan, but potentially their only chance to end the war. "How do we get in?" Odin asked, applying a makeshift bandage to Adam's shoulder. Adam's mind raced, recalling the bioluminescent fungi they'd encountered earlier. "I think I can help with that," he said, a spark of inspiration in his eyes. Over the next hour, Adam worked feverishly, combining his medical knowledge with the unique properties of the cave's flora. The result was a thin, glowing paste that, when applied to their skin and clothing, seemed to bend light around them. "Bioluminescent camouflage," Adam explained, his voice tinged with excitement despite their circumstances. "It won't make us invisible, but in the low light of the caverns, it should make us nearly undetectable." Coated in the glowing substance, the trio set out towards the command center. They moved silently through the winding passages, their forms blending seamlessly with the bioluminescent environment. As they approached their target, a massive energy shield shimmered into view, enveloping the entire facility. "Blast," Lyra hissed. "I should have anticipated this. It's a standard Sheliak defense system." Adam's heart sank, but Odin placed a reassuring hand on his arm. "You got us this far," she said. "We'll find a way through." Lyra's compound eyes narrowed in concentration. "I might be able to bypass it, but I'll need time." While Lyra worked on the shield, Adam and Odin scouted the perimeter. They moved cautiously, their camouflage allowing them to slip past patrolling guards unnoticed. "There," Odin whispered, pointing to a section of the facility where the rock face met the shield. "The energy field is weaker there. It could be our way in." Adam nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "We need a diversion," he said. "Something to draw their attention while Lyra breaches the shield." His eyes fell on a cluster of bioluminescent fungi near the facility's ventilation system. An idea began to form. "Odin, help me gather some of these," he said, gesturing to the glowing plants. "I think I can create something that will cause quite a stir." Working quickly, Adam combined various bioluminescent species, drawing on his medical expertise to synthesize a potent but non-lethal gas. The process was delicate, and more than once he had to start over, acutely aware of the precious time ticking away. Finally, he held up a small glowing canister. "This should do it," he said, a mix of pride and apprehension in his voice. "When released into the ventilation system, it'll cause confusion and disorientation among the guards. Nothing permanent, but it should give us the opening we need." They made their way back to Lyra, who had made significant progress on bypassing the shield. Adam explained his plan, and the Sheliak's antennae twitched in what he was beginning to recognize as approval. "Clever," she said. "I'm nearly there with the shield. On my signal, release the gas." Moments later, Lyra gave the go-ahead. Adam activated the canister and tossed it near the ventilation intake. Almost immediately, they could hear shouts of confusion from within the facility. Alarms blared as the guards inside struggled to make sense of their suddenly altered perceptions. Lyra's manipulations reached their crescendo, and with a fizzle of energy, a section of the shield winked out of existence. "Now!" she hissed. The trio darted through the opening, their bioluminescent camouflage allowing them to blend in with the chaos inside. Guards stumbled about, their movements erratic and uncoordinated. Adam led the way, his knowledge of human facility layouts guiding them towards what he hoped was the central control room. They encountered pockets of resistance, soldiers who had managed to avoid the effects of the gas, but their combined skills proved more than a match. As they neared their goal, the resistance intensified. They rounded a corner to find the entrance to the control room heavily guarded by a mix of human and Sheliak forces. "Elite soldiers," Odin whispered, her voice tight, "led by Colonel Steele and Commander Zax." Adam's heart raced as he took in the scene. This was it, the moment that could change everything. He looked at Odin, then at Lyra, seeing his own willpower reflected in their alien features. "Together," he said simply. With a shared nod of understanding, they launched themselves into the fray. Adam found himself facing off against a human soldier twice his size, armed with only his wits and a handful of medical tools. He ducked under a wild swing, jabbing a syringe filled with a fast-acting sedative into the man's thigh. Beside him, Odin moved with lethal grace, her knowledge of Sheliak combat techniques allowing her to anticipate and counter her former comrades' moves. Lyra provided covering fire with her advanced weaponry, creating chaos in the enemy ranks. The battle raged on, a whirlwind of action and split-second decisions. Adam lost track of time, focused solely on survival and their ultimate goal. He found himself backed into a corner, face to face with Colonel Steele himself. Steele's eyes blazed with a mix of anger and something else. Fear, perhaps? "You have no idea what you're meddling with, boy," he snarled, raising his weapon. Adam's mind raced, searching for a way out. But before he could act, a blur of motion caught his eye. Odin appeared as if from nowhere, her powerful Sheliak form slamming into Steele with bone-crushing force. The colonel went down hard, his weapon skittering across the floor. Odin stood over him, her compound eyes fixed on Adam. "You okay?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. Adam nodded, a rush of gratitude and something deeper flooding through him. "Thanks to you," he said softly. With Steele and Zax subdued, they secured the control room. Lyra immediately set to work on the transmission systems, preparing to broadcast their evidence to both human and Sheliak populations. But as Adam moved to assist her, a warning klaxon blared to life. Lyra's antennae drooped in frustration. "The systems have been sabotaged," she reported. "We can't transmit." Adam felt a momentary wave of despair, but he pushed it aside. They had come too far to fail now. He joined Lyra at the console, drawing on every scrap of technical knowledge he'd gleaned during his medical training. "We can fix this," he said, his voice firm with conviction. "We have to." As they worked feverishly to repair the equipment, the sounds of renewed fighting echoed from beyond the control room. Odin stood guard at the entrance, her posture tense. "Hurry," she urged. I don't think we have much time. Adam's fingers flew over the unfamiliar controls, his mind racing to adapt his knowledge to this alien technology. Sweat beaded on his brow as he pushed himself to the limit, acutely aware of the weight of two species' futures resting on their success. A sudden crash from the entrance made him look up sharply. Commander Zax had broken free, launching a fierce counterattack. Odin moved to intercept, engaging her former superior in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Adam watched in awe as Odin fought, her movements a blur of power and precision. But he could see the conflict in her eyes, the struggle between her loyalty to her people and the new path she had chosen. "Almost there," Lyra announced, her voice tight with concentration. Adam refocused on the task at hand, pushing aside his concern for Odin. With a final surge of effort, he completed the repairs. "Now, Lyra!" he shouted. Lyra initiated the broadcast, sending their damning evidence out across both human and Sheliak communications networks. The transmission included footage of the peaceful first contact, data on the mineral exploitation, and irrefutable proof of the leadership's corruption. As the truth began to spread, chaos erupted throughout the facility. Confused and angry soldiers from both sides started questioning their orders, their faith in their leaders shaken to the core. Adam and Odin exchanged a look of grim satisfaction. They had done it. They had given both species a chance at peace. But as alarms continued to blare and the sounds of fighting echoed through the facility, they knew their work was nowhere near the end. "We need to address them," Adam said, gesturing to the internal communication system. "Try to stop this before it turns into a bloodbath." Odin nodded, her mandibles set in a determined line. Together they approached the microphone, ready to make their case for peace to the very soldiers they had been fighting moments before. As Adam opened his mouth to speak, a new threat loomed on the horizon. On a secondary monitor, they saw a group of hardline extremists, led by a stern-faced human in an admiral's uniform, seizing control of the facility's weapon systems. "If we don't stop that broadcast," the admiral's voice crackled over the intercom, "we'll launch an attack on both human and Sheliak civilian populations. You have 5 minutes to comply." Adam's blood ran cold as he realized the stakes had just been raised exponentially. They had come so far, risked so much, and now it all hinged on stopping this final, desperate act of violence. He turned to Odin and Lyra, seeing his own willpower reflected in their alien features. Without a word, they knew what had to be done. They would split up, Adam and Odin to confront the Admiral, while Lyra stayed behind to protect the transmission. As they prepared to leave the relative safety of the control room, Adam caught Odin's gaze. In that moment, despite their differences, despite the chaos surrounding them, he felt a connection that transcended species. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "I'm glad we're in this together." Odin's mandibles clicked in what Adam had come to recognize as a smile. "As am I," she replied. With a final nod to Lyra, they set out into the facility, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The fate of both their peoples hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. As they navigated the chaotic corridors, Adam's mind raced with possibilities. How would they stop Admiral Hawk? What if they were too late? But he pushed these doubts aside, focusing on the immediate task at hand. They encountered pockets of resistance along the way, soldiers still loyal to the old regime, fighting to maintain the status quo. Adam and Odin worked in perfect synergy, their earlier battles having forged them into an effective team. Adam's medical knowledge proved unexpectedly useful in combat. He used his understanding of anatomy to target pressure points, incapacitating opponents without causing permanent harm. Odin, meanwhile, was a whirlwind of Sheliak martial arts, her movements fluid and devastating. As they fought their way closer to the weapons control center, Adam couldn't help but marvel at how far they had come. From bitter enemies to trusted allies, their journey had been nothing short of extraordinary. Finally, they reached the entrance to the weapons control center. Beyond this door lay Admiral Hawk and his extremist group, and the key to preventing a catastrophic attack on civilian populations. Adam and Odin paused for a moment, catching their breath. They could hear muffled voices from within, the tension palpable even through the thick metal door. "Ready?" Adam asked, his hand hovering over the door controls. Odin's compound eyes met his, filled with a dedication that matched his own. "Always," she replied. With a shared nod of understanding, they prepared to breach the room, knowing that the next few moments could determine the fate of both their species. The door slid open, and they stepped forward to face their final challenge. The door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a scene of controlled chaos within the weapons control center. Admiral Hawk stood at the main console, his scarred face illuminated by the flickering lights of countless monitors. His finger hovered mere inches above a large red button, the launch control for a devastating missile strike. Around him, a dozen armed extremists stood at attention, their weapons trained on the door. For a split second, time seemed to freeze as Adam and Odin locked eyes with the Admiral. Then all at once, the room erupted into action. "Stand down!" Adam shouted, his voice carrying an authority he didn't entirely feel. "You don't understand what you're about to do." Admiral Hawk's lips curled into a sneer. "Oh, I understand perfectly. It's you who fails to grasp the bigger picture, boy." Odin stepped forward, her mandibles clicking in agitation. "There is no bigger picture that justifies the slaughter of innocents," she said, her alien voice filled with conviction. The Admiral's eyes narrowed as he regarded the unlikely pair before him. A human and a Shellyak working together? How quaint. But your little alliance won't be enough to stop what's coming. As if on cue, the facility's power fluctuated. The room was plunged into darkness for a heart-stopping moment, the only light coming from the dim emergency backups. Adam didn't hesitate. He darted toward the nearest control panel, his fingers flying over the unfamiliar interface. Years of medical training had honed his ability to adapt quickly to new technology, and now he put that skill to the ultimate test. Meanwhile, Odin launched herself into action. Her Shellyak physiology gave her a distinct advantage in the low light, and she used it mercilessly. She moved like a blur, engaging the extremist guards with a fluid grace that belied her alien form. The sound of combat filled the air, the meaty thud of impacts, the clatter of dropped weapons, and the grunts and cries of the combatants. Through it all, Adam worked feverishly, his eyes darting between the console and the ongoing battle. A proximity alarm blared, cutting through the chaos. Adam looked up to see Admiral Hawk's finger descending toward the launch button. "No!" Adam yelled, but it was too late. The console lit up as the launch sequence initiated. On the main view screen, a countdown appeared, ticking away the seconds until annihilation. Adam redoubled his efforts, his fingers dancing across the controls as he attempted to override the system. Sweat beaded on his brow as he raced against time, the fate of millions hanging in the balance. Across the room, Odin found herself face to face with Admiral Hawk himself. The human was larger and physically stronger, but Odin's Shellyak combat training gave her an edge. They circled each other warily, each looking for an opening. Hawk struck first, a powerful right hook that Odin barely managed to dodge. She countered with a swift kick to his midsection, driving the air from his lungs. The fight was brutal and raw. Hawk used every dirty trick in the book, while Odin relied on a combination of Shellyak martial arts and the human techniques she had learned from Adam. They grappled and struck, neither willing to give an inch. As the battle raged on, Adam finally made a breakthrough. With a triumphant cry, he managed to redirect the missile's trajectory. Instead of raining death upon civilian populations, they would now detonate harmlessly in space. The room fell silent as everyone turned to watch the view screen. The missiles streaked across the star-filled expanse, climbing higher and higher until they were barely visible pinpricks of light. Then, in a silent flash that momentarily outshone the stars themselves, they exploded. The shockwave of the detonation rippled through space, beautiful and terrifying in its luminescent fury. For a moment, everyone in the control room stood transfixed by the awesome display of power. It was Odin who broke the spell. With a move that combined Shellyak agility and human unpredictability, she swept Admiral Hawk's legs out from under him. The man went down hard, his head striking the metal floor with a sickening crack. As Odin secured the Admiral, Adam quickly disabled the remaining weapon systems. The immediate threat was neutralized, but the victory felt hollow as alarms began to blare throughout the facility. A computerized voice echoed through the room. "Warning, Planetary core instability detected. Catastrophic geological events imminent. Evacuate immediately. Adam and Odin exchanged a look of horror as the implications sank in. The redirected missile detonation must have triggered a chain reaction in Sheliaka Prime's already unstable core. The planet itself was now their enemy, and time was rapidly running out. "We need to evacuate the entire planet," Adam said, his mind already racing through possibilities. "Both humans and Sheliak." Odin nodded grimly. "Agreed. But how? There's too much distrust, too much bad blood between our people." Adam's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "We use this command center. We have access to both human and Sheliak communication systems. We can coordinate the evacuation efforts from here." Without wasting another moment, they sprang into action. Adam established contact with Dr. Kovacs, quickly explaining the situation and urging her to mobilize all available human forces for rescue operations. Simultaneously, Odin reached out to General Vox, her former superior. It took all her powers of persuasion, but she managed to convince him of the dire threat they all faced. Within minutes, Sheliak ships were joining the human vessels in orbit, preparing for a massive evacuation effort. As tremors shook the facility, Adam and Odin worked tirelessly to establish emergency protocols and assign evacuation zones. They leveraged their unique combination of human and Sheliak knowledge, maximizing the efficiency of the rescue operations. Reports flooded in from across the planet's surface. Massive fissures were opening up, swallowing entire city blocks. Volcanic eruptions threatened to engulf population centers in rivers of molten rock. The once lush world of Sheliaka Prime was tearing itself apart. Adam coordinated with human teams on the ground, guiding them to rescue stranded civilians and soldiers alike. Odin did the same with Sheliak forces, her voice steady and commanding as she directed her people to safety. As they worked, Adam's scientific mind continued to churn. He couldn't shake the feeling that there must be a way to stop this, to save the planet itself. His eyes fell on a readout displaying the mineral composition of Sheliaka Prime's core. Suddenly, it clicked. The rare mineral that had caused this conflict in the first place, it had unique properties that could potentially stabilize the planet's core. If they could generate a properly calibrated energy pulse using the mineral, they might be able to halt the planet's destruction. Adam quickly shared his theory with Odin, his words tumbling out in a rush of excitement and fear. "It could work," he said, "but someone would have to stay behind to manually activate the device from the surface." Odin's compound eyes met his, filled with a mix of hope and trepidation. "That's a suicide mission," she said softly. Before Adam could respond, a massive earthquake rocked the facility. The command center began to buckle, supports groaning under the strain. Chunks of ceiling crashed down around them, narrowly missing the pair as they scrambled for safety. "We need to go!" Odin shouted over the din of twisting metal and crumbling concrete. They ran, dodging falling debris and leaping over widening cracks in the floor. The exit seemed impossibly far away, but they pushed on, driven by pure survival instinct. Just as they reached the door, a final tremor shook the facility. The floor beneath them gave way, and for a heart-stopping moment, Adam felt himself falling. Then Odin's hand closed around his wrist, yanking him to safety with her superior Sheliak strength. They stumbled out of the collapsing structure, gasping for breath in the ash-filled air. A shuttle was waiting, its engines already spooling up for takeoff. They climbed aboard just as another quake ripped through the area. As the shuttle rocketed into the sky, Adam and Odin watched through the viewport as Sheliaka Prime tore itself apart below them. The once beautiful world was now a nightmare landscape of fire and destruction. From orbit, they could see the full scope of the catastrophe. Entire continents were splitting apart, oceans boiling away into space, and amidst it all, ships from both species darted to and fro, working in tandem to rescue as many souls as possible. The shuttle docked with a larger evacuation vessel, and Adam and Odin quickly made their way to the bridge. They resumed coordination of the rescue efforts, their voices hoarse but determined as they guided ships through the chaos. As they worked, Adam couldn't shake the nagging thought of his theory. Could they really save the planet, or would attempting to do so only cost more lives? He looked at Odin, saw the same conflict mirrored in her alien features. They had come so far, overcome so much together. Now they faced a decision that would shape the destiny of both their peoples. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance as Adam and Odin weighed their options. Continue the evacuation and ensure the survival of as many as possible, or risk everything on a desperate gamble to save Sheliaka Prime itself? Time was running out. They had to decide, and decide quickly. Whatever choice they made, the consequences would echo through history for generations to come. Adam and Odin exchanged a long look, their eyes conveying a silent understanding. The decision was made. "We have to try," Adam said, his voice firm. "We can't abandon an entire planet without exhausting every option." Odin nodded, her mandibles clicking in agreement. "Agreed, but we'll need help." They quickly assembled a team of the brightest minds from both species. Human physicists worked alongside Sheliak geologists, their previous animosity forgotten in the face of impending catastrophe. Adam led the scientific efforts, his medical background proving invaluable as he helped synthesize the rare mineral into a usable form. Odin coordinated with General Vox and Dr. Kovacs, her voice steady as she directed both evacuation efforts and resource gathering. "We need more of the mineral," she said during a tense video conference. "Every gram counts." As the planet continued to fracture beneath them, the team worked tirelessly. Days blurred into nights, meals were forgotten, and sleep became a luxury none could afford. Through it all, Adam and Odin's bond deepened, their shared purpose forging a connection that transcended species. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of calculations and failed attempts, a breakthrough came. Adam held up a small pulsing device, its core glowing with an otherworldly light. "It's ready," he announced to the exhausted team. "This should generate the energy pulse we need to stabilize the core." The room erupted in cheers, but the celebration was short-lived. Initial tests revealed a critical flaw in their plan. "The device needs direct contact with the planet's core," a Sheliak scientist explained, her compound eyes reflecting the holographic display. "Remote activation won't generate a strong enough pulse." The implications sank in. Someone would have to physically transport the device to the planet's core, a journey that would almost certainly be one way. Adam stepped forward without hesitation. "I'll go," he said, his voice quiet but resolute. Odin's hand on his arm stopped him. "Not alone," she said. "We started this together. We'll finish it together." Their decision sparked an immediate uproar. Human and Sheliak leaders alike argued against risking both Adam and Odin, citing the fragile peace between their species. "If we lose you both, everything we've fought for could unravel," Dr. Kovacs pleaded. But Adam and Odin stood firm. They donned specially designed suits, marvels of joint human Sheliak engineering. The suits gleamed with an iridescent sheen, built to withstand pressures and temperatures that would vaporize unprotected flesh in seconds. As final preparations were made, alarms blared throughout the station. Admiral Hawk, thought to be securely detained, had escaped with a group of loyal extremists. They had commandeered a ship and were heading towards the planet's surface. "He'll try to stop us," Adam said, his eyebrows furrowed. "We need to move now." They launched in a reinforced drilling vehicle, its hull creaking as they plunged into Sheliaka Prime's turbulent atmosphere. The planet's surface was unrecognizable, a hellscape of fire and molten rock. They activated the drill, boring deep into the planet's crust. The descent was harrowing. Violent tremors threatened to tear their vehicle apart. Pockets of superheated gas erupted around them, battering the hull. More than once, they narrowly avoided being crushed by collapsing tunnels. Through it all, Adam and Odin worked in perfect sync. When a critical system failed, Adam's quick thinking and Odin's deft manipulations kept them alive. When toxic fumes began to seep through a hairline crack, they sealed it together, their movements a fluid dance in the confined space. As they approached the core, their sensors picked up another signal. Admiral Hawk's ship was following them, closing fast. "He'll destroy the device if he reaches us," Odin said, her alien features set in unshakable focus. "We have to split up." Adam wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. With a final shared look that spoke volumes, they separated. Adam continued towards the core with the precious device, while Odin turned to face Hawk. The battle that ensued was like nothing in human or Shellyak military history. Odin used every trick she knew, leveraging the unstable environment to her advantage. She led Hawk's ship through narrow channels that collapsed behind her, triggered eruptions of lava with precisely aimed shots, and executed maneuvers that pushed her ship to its structural limits. Hawk matched her move for move, his years of experience evident in every evasion and counterattack. The two ships danced a deadly ballet amidst geysers of molten rock and collapsing caverns, each seeking an advantage that could end the fight. Meanwhile, Adam pushed on towards the planet's core. The heat was becoming unbearable, even in his advanced suit. Sweat stung his eyes as he maneuvered the unwieldy device into position. His hands shook, whether from exhaustion or the intense gravitational forces, he couldn't tell. As he began the activation sequence, his comm unit crackled. Odin's voice came through, distorted and breaking up. Adam, Hawk, device, hurry. Then silence. Adam's finger hovered over the final activation switch. The fate of an entire world rested on this moment, but Odin was out there, possibly hurt or worse. If he activated the device now, he might save the planet but lose her. Time seemed to stretch as Adam weighed his options. The core pulsed ominously around him, a constant reminder of the planet's impending doom. Memories flashed through his mind, the countless lives at stake, the tentative peace between humans and Shellyaks, and Odin. Odin, who had become so much more than an ally. With a deep breath, Adam made his choice. He reached for the activation switch, his hands steady despite the turmoil in his heart. Whatever happened next would change the course of history for both their species. As his finger descended towards the switch, Adam silently hoped that somehow, against the odds, there might still be a way to save both the planet and the one who had come to mean everything to him. Him. With a deep breath, Adam pressed the activation switch. The device hummed to life, its core pulsing with an otherworldly energy. Adam felt the vibrations course through his suit as the stabilization pulse spread outward, racing through the planet's molten core. For a moment, nothing seemed to change. Then, with a low rumble that grew to a deafening roar, the world around him began to shift. Magma flows redirected, pressure equalized, and the violent tremors that had threatened to tear the planet apart began to subside. Adam watched in awe as the readouts on his suit's display showed the planet's vital signs stabilizing. He had done it. Shellyak Prime would survive. But the victory was bittersweet. As the immediate danger passed, Adam's thoughts turned to Odin. He tapped his communicator, trying to re-establish contact. Odin? Odin, can you hear me? The device worked. The planet's stabilizing. What's your status? Only static answered him. Adam's chest tightened with worry. He had made the right choice for the planet, for both their species, but at what cost? Meanwhile, deep within the planet's twisting tunnels, Odin was locked in a fierce battle with Admiral Hawk and his extremists. Her ship darted and weaved through collapsing caverns, each maneuver a calculated risk. Hawk matched her move for move, his years of experience evident in every evasion and counterattack. Suddenly, Odin felt a change. The violent shaking that had made navigation so treacherous began to lessen. A realization struck her. Adam must have activated the device. In that split second of distraction, Hawk seized his opportunity. A blast from Hawk's ship caught Odin off guard, sending her careening into a cavern wall. The impact jarred her entire body, and warning lights flashed across her control panel. Odin struggled to regain control as Hawk's ship loomed behind her, weapons charging for a final strike. Just as Hawk was about to fire, a massive tremor shook the cavern. A huge section of the ceiling broke free, crashing down between their ships. Odin's pilot instincts kicked in, and she maneuvered her damaged vessel through a narrow gap in the falling debris. Hawk and his followers weren't so lucky. Their ships were forced back, cut off from pursuing Odin any further. Seizing her chance, Odin pushed her engines to their limits. She had to get back to Adam to make sure he was safe. As she navigated the shifting tunnels, she tried her communicator again. Adam? Adam, do you copy? I'm on my way to your position. Only silence greeted her. Odin's mandibles clicked with concern, but she pressed on. The planet was stabilizing, but new dangers were emerging. Shifting tectonic plates created treacherous obstacles, and pockets of superheated gas vented unpredictably. Odin used every ounce of her skill and the advanced capabilities of her suit to forge ahead. Adam, having completed his mission, began his own perilous journey back to the surface. The stabilizing planet presented a whole new set of challenges. Tunnels that had been clear minutes ago were now blocked by newly formed rock formations. Entire chambers had been sealed off, forcing Adam to find alternate routes. As he climbed through a particularly narrow passage, Adam's hand brushed against something unusual. He paused, using his suit's enhanced vision to examine the rock face. His eyes widened as he realized what he was seeing. A vein of the rare mineral that had caused the original conflict between humans and Shellyacs. Understanding the potential importance of this discovery, Adam carefully extracted several samples, securing them in a containment unit on his suit. If they survived this ordeal, perhaps these samples could be used to foster peace and cooperation between their species. Unbeknownst to Adam and Odin, Admiral Hawk had not given up. Realizing his plan to stop the planet's stabilization had failed, he became desperate. Hawk ordered his remaining followers to set charges throughout the tunnel system. If he couldn't have Shellyaca Prime, no one would. As Adam and Odin made their separate ways toward the surface, they unknowingly entered Hawk's trap. The first explosion caught them both off guard. The tunnel Adam was traversing shook violently, debris raining down around him. He barely managed to activate his suit's shield in time to avoid being crushed. Odin felt the tremors from the explosion and immediately recognized them as artificial. "Hawk," she muttered, her voice permeated with anger and concern. She increased her pace, pushing herself to the limit as she raced to find Adam before it was too late. In orbit above Shellyaca Prime, Dr. Kovacs and General Vox monitored the situation with growing alarm. They had detected the activation of the stabilization device and observed the gradual cessation of seismic activity with relief. But now new explosions were registering on their sensors, and they still had no communication with Adam or Odin. "We need to get them out of there," Dr. Kovacs said, her voice tight with worry. General Vox nodded, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic display of the planet. "Agreed. I'm mobilizing a joint rescue team now. We'll use the best of both our technologies." As the rescue team prepared to descend, Adam and Odin faced escalating dangers. The explosions had destabilized large sections of the tunnel system. Adam found himself trapped in a slowly collapsing chamber, frantically searching for a way out as the walls closed in around him. Odin, using her enhanced Shellyak senses, detected faint life signs nearby. She altered her course, discovering a group of stranded Shellyak civilians huddled in a small cavern. They had been left behind during the chaotic evacuation, forgotten in the rush to escape the dying planet. For a moment, Odin hesitated. Every second she delayed reduced her chances of reaching Adam in time. But as she looked at the terrified faces of her people, she knew she couldn't leave them behind. It went against everything she had come to believe through her experiences with Adam. "Come with me," she said, her voice firm but reassuring. "We're getting out of here together." As Odin led the civilians through the treacherous tunnels, she felt the vibrations of the approaching rescue team. Hope surged within her. If she could intercept them, they might have a chance to save everyone. The rescue team, a mix of human and Shellyak specialists, drilled through the planet's crust with state-of-the-art equipment. They worked in perfect sync, their former animosity forgotten in the face of their shared mission. Every member understood the stakes. Not just the lives of Adam and Odin, but the future of human-Shellyak relations hung in the balance. As they penetrated deeper into the planet, the team encountered increasing resistance. The newly stabilized core was emitting unpredictable energy fluctuations, playing havoc with their equipment. Each meter gained was a battle against the very forces of nature. Adam, having finally found a way out of the collapsing chamber, stumbled upon the cache of the rare mineral he had sampled earlier. The vein was larger than he had initially realized, stretching as far as he could see. The implications of this discovery raced through his mind, but he had no time to dwell on them. Another explosion rocked the tunnel, reminding him of the imminent danger. Odin, guiding the group of Sheliak civilians, picked up the sound of shifting rocks ahead. She held up a hand, signaling the group to stop. Cautiously, she moved forward, her eyes scanning for any sign of movement. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the dust-filled air. "Adam!" Odin called out, relief flooding her voice. Adam looked up, his face breaking into a weary smile behind his helmet's faceplate. "Odin, you're alive!" Their reunion was cut short by the sound of the rescue team's drill breaking through a nearby wall. As the dust settled, human and Sheliak rescuers poured into the tunnel, quickly assessing the situation and beginning evacuation procedures. But their ordeal was not nearly finished. Admiral Hawk's final set of charges detonated, sending shockwaves through the entire tunnel system. The rescue team's exit route was cut off, leaving them trapped with Adam, Odin, and the civilians in a rapidly collapsing section of the planet's crust. As the walls began to crumble around them, Adam and Odin exchanged a determined look. They had come too far, overcome too much, to fail now. Together, they began to formulate a plan, racing against time to find a way out before the planet claimed them all. The ground beneath their feet shuddered violently, sending cascades of dust and debris raining down from the crumbling ceiling. Adam stumbled, catching himself against a jagged outcropping of rock. His eyes darted frantically around the collapsing tunnel, searching for a way out. Suddenly, the narrow passage opened up into a vast underground cavern. Adam's breath caught in his throat as he took in the scene before him. The rescue team had arrived, their advanced equipment casting eerie shadows across the rough-hewn walls. But what truly caught his attention was the sight of Odin, her tall, insectoid form unmistakable even in the dim light. She was leading a group of Sheliak civilians, her movements careful and precise as she guided them through the treacherous terrain. Relief flooded through Adam's body, momentarily overpowering his exhaustion and fear. "Odin!" he called out, his voice hoarse from the dust-filled air. Odin's head snapped up, her compound eyes reflecting the flickering lights of the rescue team's equipment. In an instant, she was moving towards him, her long strides eating up the distance between them. Their reunion was cut short by a massive tremor that shook the entire cavern. Enormous chunks of rock broke free from the ceiling, plummeting towards the group below. Adam instinctively threw himself over a nearby Sheliak civilian, shielding them with his body. The expected impact never came. Adam looked up to see a shimmering energy field surrounding them, deflecting the falling debris. The rescue team had deployed their force field generators, creating a protective bubble around the group. "The force field won't hold for long," one of the human rescuers shouted, her voice strained as she struggled to maintain the energy output. "We need to find a way out, fast." Adam's mind raced, piecing together everything he had learned about the planet's new composition. His hand went to the containment unit on his suit, where he had stored the samples of the rare mineral. "I have an idea," he said, turning to Odin, "but it's risky." Odin's mandibles clicked in what Adam had come to recognize as a gesture of curiosity. "At this point, I believe we have little choice but to embrace risk," she replied. Adam quickly explained his plan to use the mineral samples to amplify the force field's power, potentially creating a path to the surface. Odin listened intently, her alien features unreadable to most, but Adam could sense her growing excitement. "It could work," she said, turning to address the rescue team. "We must try." The team began to prepare, integrating the mineral samples into their equipment. The cavern shook again, more violently this time, and a deep rumbling echoed through the space. Suddenly, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Did you really think you could escape that easily?" Admiral Hawk emerged from a side tunnel, flanked by his remaining followers. Their weapons were drawn, hatred blazing in their eyes. "Stand down, Hawk," Adam called out, stepping forward. "It's over. The planet is stabilizing. There's no need for more violence." Hawk's response was a maniacal laugh. "If I can't have this world, no one will." The Admiral raised his weapon, but Odin was faster. She launched herself at Hawk, her powerful limbs carrying her across the cavern in a blur of motion. Adam was right behind her, ducking under a blast from one of Hawk's followers and tackling the man to the ground. The cavern erupted into chaos. Human and Sheliak rescuers fought side by side against Hawk's extremists, while Adam and Odin moved in perfect sync, covering each other's blind spots and taking down enemy after enemy. In the midst of the battle, Hawk managed to activate another explosive charge. The blast shook the entire cavern, opening a massive fissure in the floor. Adam, caught off guard by the explosion, lost his footing and stumbled towards the chasm. Time seemed to slow as he felt himself falling, the yawning darkness below reaching up to claim him. Then a familiar hand gripped his wrist. Odin had leapt after him, her powerful legs propelling her through the air. Using her momentum, she swung them both away from the fissure, landing hard on solid ground. For a moment they lay there, Adam's breath coming in ragged gasps. Odin's compound eyes met his, and an unspoken understanding passed between them. They had saved each other, just as they had been doing since the beginning of this impossible journey. With Hawk and his followers subdued, the team quickly returned to Adam's plan. They integrated the mineral samples into the force field generators, the energy bubble growing stronger and brighter with each passing second. "Everyone inside!" Adam shouted as the cavern continued to collapse around them. The bubble began to rise, carrying them through the collapsing tunnels. Adam watched in awe as they narrowly avoided falling debris and pockets of extreme pressure. The combined human and Shellyak technology, enhanced by the mysterious mineral, was performing beyond his wildest expectations. But as they neared the surface, Adam noticed the energy bubble beginning to flicker. The mineral's power was fading, not quite enough to complete their journey. Panic started to set in among the group, but Adam's mind was already racing for a solution. "We need more power," he said, turning to Odin. I think we need to combine our energies, human and Shellyak." Odin's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of intense thought. "A combination of our bioelectric fields? It's never been attempted." "There's a first time for everything," Adam replied with a grim smile. Without further hesitation, they stepped forward, placing their hands on the force field generators. The human and Shellyak rescue team members followed suit, forming a circle around the civilians. As they concentrated, Adam felt a strange tingling sensation spreading from his hands throughout his body. He could sense Odin's alien energy mingling with his own, creating something entirely new and incredibly powerful. The bubble surged upward with renewed force, cutting through layers of rock seamlessly. Adam gritted his teeth, pouring every ounce of his strength into the effort. Beside him, Odin's exoskeleton trembled with exertion. Just when Adam thought he couldn't hold on any longer, he felt a change in the pressure around them. The bubble burst through the final layer of the planet's crust, erupting into open air like a glowing meteor. As the energy dissipated, Adam found himself standing on a hill, overlooking the dramatically altered landscape of Shellyak Prime. The once barren surface was now dotted with patches of bioluminescent flora from the caves, spreading across the terrain in a breathtaking display of nature's resilience. Adam turned to Odin, words failing him as they took in the sight of their saved world. In the distance, the combined fleet of human and Shellyak ships hovered above the planet, their lights twinkling like stars against the alien sky. As Dr. Kovacs and General Vox rushed towards them, their faces alight with relief and joy, Adam knew that this was only the beginning. The real work of building a lasting peace between their peoples was just starting. But for the first time since this ordeal began, he felt a genuine sense of hope for the future.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.